All right, ladies and gentlemen. So, this is my little review for the Logitech Harmony 350 Universal Remote. Now, the thing about Harmony remotes is they've had a reputation over the years for making programming a home theater's worth of remote controls very, very simple. And for the most part, that is quite true. The beauty of the secret sauce of that whole thing, really and truly, is that you plug your remote into your PC, you run this little piece of software here, and it very much simplifies the process of setting up your universal remote relative to what you would have had to do with any other remotes on the market, where you would have to sit down, go through a sheet of codes, try and figure out which code goes with which TV, and manually punch them in and give yourself a small but definite brain aneurysm that would probably kill you. The Harmony does a completely different thing. You install the software on your PC, you plug in your remote via a mini USB cable, and then you enter in all of the devices on your home theater. In my case, Sharp TV, Motorola set-top box, and a Sony home theater soundbar. Once you do that, it connects to the Harmony database, pulls down all the appropriate codes, and then makes your life a whole lot easier. After which you simply set up your activities. In the case of this remote, there is a single activity, which is watch TV, which pretty much does a very simple thing. It's just this watch TV option really just turns everything under this activity on all at the same time, and then you press it once more to turn them all off at the same time. That's all this button really does. It's really just a power button with a different sticker and label, which on Logitech's part they should have just done that instead. It would have made life a lot easier. Anyway, so when you create this activity, what you do is you select uh, which devices you want to come on, which in this case is this. You set the input that you want to be changed. In this case, it prompts you to change the input for the Sony amp, but I don't need to because it stays on one input and it never changes, so that's fine. Um, Additionally, it asks you which volume control are you using to control volume for the entire setup, because as you know, the TV will have its own volume control, the home theater system, or in this case, soundbar, will have its own volume control, and in the case of the cable box has its own independent volume control as well, which is annoying as nails. Once you choose a specific device for the volume control, in my case, I chose the Sony amp for all three devices, regardless which one what I was using primarily. I would always be using the Sony amp to control volume. So see, here's the thing, right? This remote only has one activity, which is watch TV. However, you can independently control a variety of devices. So if I choose the TV preset, right, I would actually be able to, with buttons like menu, be able to get into the TV's menu and adjust things like brightness and volume and blah 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 by clicking the TV button and then using these buttons. Now, if I were to use cable, I would be able to bring up the cable box's menu button and navigate with the directional pad and so forth, allowing me to navigate the cable box, set timers, do pay-per-view purchases, that kind of thing. Now, here's the tricky bit. If I'm on the TV preset, I can't control the cable box. If I'm on the cable preset, I can't control the TV stuff. But interestingly enough, as I showed you prior, if I select the Sony amp as my primary volume control for everything, regardless of the preset I'm in, these buttons are always programmed as Sony amp volume on every single preset. Now, that's cool because it means I can take buttons from the TV and apply them to my cable remote layout. I should be able to take buttons from my home theater remote and then apply them to my cable box remote. Seems well enough. Well, honestly, no. Logitech decided to make everyone's lives a lot more difficult, and I mean a lot more difficult. So let me go into the button configuration for my Motorola set-top box here, right? Now, if I go down here to volume, you will see, right, so the volume is actually Sony amp. Here's the thing. Say I wanted, while I'm, in the cable preset, say I want to control the play and pause and stop functionality for my TV. Because a lot of these TVs have YouTube apps, they have Netflix apps, and you can use the TV remote's play and pause functions to actually pause Netflix and YouTube and that kind of thing. Hell, I've got a HDMI connected Chromecast with CEC on the TV, so I can actually use these controls to stop and play and pause the Chromecast's apps on my TV remote, which is really really nice. Here's the thing, right? By default, when I hit Watch TV and the TV comes on, by default, the preset that my remote automatically goes to is the cable preset under my devices. So what happens is when I press these buttons, it's not actually sending signals to the sharp television. It's actually sending signals to the set-top box because the set-top box remote actually came with these controls because there's a variant of my set-top box with a built-in DVR. So these controls are actually programmed for that DVR. So I thought to myself, all right, how do I reprogram these controls so under the cable PC preset, I can use these buttons to simply control my TV. So I'm thinking, okay, right. So, I have the Sharp TV already programmed in. All the profiles for the for the buttons are already there in the software. I should be able to just find a button here. I can maybe it's this. I can go here and maybe I can pull the preset from the Sharp TV, and no, I can't do that because every device's codes are siloed to that device, even though the software somehow magically broke that rule and allowed the Sony AMP code to be programmed to the volume control for every single device. Again, my point here is that Logitech could have made the software in such a way I could steal codes from other devices and apply them to another device's preset. So I could take, functionality from the TV's remote and apply it to the cable remote's preset. Logitech did not do that. But they did give you a very interesting roundabout. The back of this remote at the very bottom actually has a infrared receiver. It can actually pick up infrared signals sent by other remotes. So I can actually add commands to the software through this menu, put in a name, click next, and then I point the remote that I want that has the functionality I want. I can point it to the back of the Harmony, fire that IR blaster into the Harmony, and the Harmony will actually pick up the signal and store it in memory. That's how I actually have these extra play pause functionality for my Chromecast stored in the software. So now I was able to go into the Motorola set-top box and I applied this playback functionality, the play Chromecast, stop Chromecast functionality. I was able to apply that to the cable preset. What was interesting though was that in the process of setting up these remotes, I realized something under the Sharp remote. Now, my Sharp remote has a single input button, which you press brings up a menu, and you can further press the input button to cycle through all my inputs. But something I noticed with the Sharp presets over here on the list was that they actually had dedicated codes for individual inputs, which meant I could assign a code to a specific button, and instead of having to press input 3 times to get to HDMI 3, I could just press, say, this button here and jump directly to HDMI 3, which was a really useful bit of functionality. The thing is, I would need to go into TV and press this and then go back to cable and then to get back my regular cable TV functionality. For my parents, that is a no go. They will not be switching between device presets all the time. That's too much for them to wrap their heads around. So what I ended up doing was I had to get a second universal remote. In this case, a large LG G4 smartphone with a built-in IR blaster, and I programmed HDMI presets into these 3 buttons. Then I took this remote and I blasted it into the LG G4 and recorded these 3 codes on the LG G4. And then I connected the Harmony back to this software. And under the Motorola preset, I re-recorded the sharp HDMI input presets. If that isn't ridiculously convoluted and chasing your tail, I know it is. It really is. And the thing is, the ability to simply reach into another device's set of codes and apply them to, say, take my TV's, input codes and apply them to my cable set-top box layout. I mean, that should have been obvious, and that's a oversight on the part of Logitech and their desktop software. That is not a limitation of the remote. This is actually something Logitech can fix and should fix retroactively to all their remotes by simply updating their desktop software. If they were to do that, that would fix a lot of problems for a lot of people on this most basic of remotes. By the way, I picked this remote for one simple reason. It has no LCD screen, no screen at all, no screen of any sort, which means the only time this remote is using power is when you're pressing buttons like a traditional IR remote, which means the battery in there should last for a year plus, whereas most Harmony remotes with these batteries and LCD screens last for maybe a couple of weeks, maybe a month if you're lucky, before you have to change batteries again, which is kind of absurd. I don't want to change batteries in my remote that often, much less charge my remote or forget to charge my remote and have to wait for it to charge before I can turn my damn TV on. Yeah, Logitech, e-ink displays, please. You should really get on that. Otherwise, good remote, but you need to know this little trick using a second universal remote to record certain keys and then cycle them back into the device, which is again kind of annoying, but if you know what you're doing and for the cost of this device, it is very much worth it. For those of you who would like to buy this remote, for me, it's a 3-4 star device. Decent build, decent quality, very small buttons, very small text. But if you're not very old or with poor eyesight, it shouldn't be too much of an issue. Just remember, you need to, don't just rely on the default presets that Logitech gives you. You could do a little tweaking and get yourself a much better experience. Anyway, thanks for your time, everyone. Hope you've enjoyed my review. Take care.